All right, well, welcome to the webinar. Looks like we have a couple other folks that are still joining in at this point, so glad you get to be with us on this renewed webinar. This one's going to be a little bit different than the ones we've done in the past, so the way in which this is going to play itself out is a little bit more of a laboratory type experience. So if for some reason you haven't downloaded yet the PDF that has the working documents, the life assessment tool that we're going to be using and working from, you're going to want to make sure you do that by downloading it from our website. You can go under the webinar tab and then it says click here to download PDF. Make sure you download it, print it off. If watching this at another time, this is a time in which you'll be able to work on this offline and be able to hopefully make some progress in thinking through the future. So the premise behind what we're going to try and work on tonight, and as we kind of think about, is the idea of thinking about reentry in a purposeful and intentional way, because what we recognize if we look at our lives is that if seasons like this and moments like this come and go, we have an opportunity or tendency potentially to let slip by the learnings, the development, and the elements of change that God has for us, or that are available to us to kind of glean and then kind of invest or push into our lives. And so what we're going to try and do tonight is do kind of an active process of thinking through what does this life assessment look like as we take stock of what was true before the coronavirus season hit, and then what's been true during this time, and then particularly then, okay, what does it mean as we re-enter lives? It's a pretty straightforward thinking process, but to be able to break it into a specific set of categories to function and think effectively. I wanted to show you something real quick on the survey. We took a survey and had over 100 and some folks answer and kind of provide perspective, et cetera. So I want to show you a little bit of stuff that came back from the survey that I think speaks a little bit. So here's a screen share on the survey that we took. And I just want to show you a couple pieces that I think are particularly helpful as recognizing the reality of where people are at. And look, first of all, is just kind of question number 2 said, for me, the shelter in place experience has been, and what you see right here is challenging but good, mostly good once I adjusted. But if you take the mostly good, which would be the positive side, okay, so it's mostly good once I got used to it, and great, I truly loved it. We have right around 54 to 55% of people that actually felt like, honestly, this has been a positive experience. Something good has come out of this time. Whereas you have a lower percentage that actually felt like this has primarily been devastating or destructive or really a mess. The other component I think is pretty interesting is if you come down here, I'm dreading the prospect. The question, and this is a kind of a polarized question intentionally, right? That I'm dreading the prospect of the return to normal life. And look at this. You've got 22% that agree and 22% that strongly agree. So we're talking 1 out of 4 people would say, yeah, I'm kind of dreading the prospect of going back to normal life as it was before. And then you've got a whole third that says neither agree nor disagree, which typically that means that you ever take about 50% of those people would lean more towards, yeah, honestly, I'm kind of dreading the idea of returning to normal life in the way that it's been before. So that's kind of a pretty significant play out here. But the thing that I also want to just point out is question number 5 here. And that is, we kind of took a particular element for us, which obviously is kind of spiritual growth, spiritual formation, and vibrancy. And so we asked another question, which said, these past weeks of disruption have been spiritually vibrant and meaningful for me. And look what this says. It says 40% agree, and then another 10% strongly agree. So 50% just straight up agree that this has been a positive, spiritually vibrant time for them individually and personally. And the question, and of course, then you still have another whole third here that says neither agree nor disagree. So you just split the difference on that, and you end up with 65% of people are saying roughly it's been a positive, net positive of spiritual vibrancy. So something has been gained, something has tangibly been added to this process. So what this is telling me, and I'll go ahead and stop the sharing piece here, what this is telling us and telling me is that there's real gains that have come from this time. And the question is, how do we capture those individually for ourselves, and how do we capitalize on them as we think about re-entering life in the next weeks, months, and it could be probably months, but even further beyond that. So that is some of what we're going to be working on tonight. And so let me tell you about how we're going to do it. Hopefully you've printed out, again, your assessment. And what we're going to do is I'm going to give you some time. I'm going to walk through a couple of these elements. I'm going to give you like a little quick snapshot snapshot moment for you to work on one of these pieces. And then I'm going to ask for volunteers and pull one of you guys in, and I'll do a little bit of a coaching question asking around that from a discovery standpoint. And I'll send that person back into the audience, and then we'll work on a little bit more of that. So we're going to do some kind of working and then coaching, working and then coaching. So that's kind of the plan for how we're going to play this out this evening. So the first thing I just want to do is to look at the life assessment tool, and to look at what, and to have you guys work for, and I'm going to give you a short amount of time on this particular piece. So let me go ahead and pull up the, let me go up and pull up our tool here. There we go. Let me go ahead and share this now with us. Okay, so this is hopefully the tool that you have in front of you. So this is your coronavirus re-entry life assessment. And again, what we're trying to do is just capturing the gains and the losses that have been brought about by this quarantine time and then moving them forward. So you see we've broken it down into 5 particular categories of health and family, faith, work, and community. So these are 5 broad categories as you think about your life. And then across the top, we've really broken down this thinking into really 4 different ways of thinking about each one of these categories of our life. And the first one is what's working, what was working, what is working. So what's something worth celebrating, if you see up here. And then what's broken, like what is just not working and needs to be fixed. And then I think these last 2 categories are particularly helpful, and that is what is confused or what was confused. And what we're trying to figure out there is what kind of clarity could be brought there. And lastly, what is missing? What's just not there in my life that needs to be added? So that's kind of the categories as they work through this entire matrix that we're going to be working on. And what I'd like to do is I'm going to choose one of these categories. I'm going to go ahead and go with the health category, the first one on top here, which involves your physical, mental, recreational, play health. So not your faith, not your family, not your work, and not your community elements, but really your health. And I want to do is I'm going to give you just 3 minutes, and I want you to go ahead and just try and populate as much as you can in each one of these categories. Now, what you see here is we have health before and health during. So health before means what was the reality? What was working for you in your health, in your physical health, your mental health? You know, it's great. I was reading a book a week, and now during Corona, I haven't read anything at all. That would be an implication of things that were working and now potentially things that are now broken during. So that's the exercise that I want you guys to do for 3 minutes. And then I'm going to ask for volunteer, pull you in, and we'll do a little bit of coaching on that. Okay. So hopefully you have the tool in front of you, and we're going to go ahead and jump on that and move straight forward to that. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes. And then I'll come back and ask for some volunteers, okay? So 3 minutes, I'm gonna set a timer, and I'll see you back here in 3 minutes. You can start working now. All right, so hopefully you got a chance to take a minute to think through that particular category. So love to take a volunteer. You can raise your hand. There's a little opportunity there for you to raise your hand, or and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you in, and we'll do a little bit of side-by-side coaching, talking through a little bit of what you put in there. So don't be shy. It's all safe people we got here. So who would like to be a volunteer, or would you like me to just draft you? So who could volunteer for me? Just raise your hand. There's a little raise your hand feature on there. That'd be perfect. Don't worry about what your answers are. Work through that. It'd be great. So, okay. So how about I draft someone? Jay Street, would you be willing to be my guinea pig here? I'm going to go ahead and bring you in, promote to panelist. I'm going to bring you on in. So, all right, look at that. Jay Street, are you willing to be a guinea pig for me? You and Norma? Assuming you're still there. Jay, Norma? Maybe. Jay Street? I just unmuted you. Hopefully that would work. Are you guys able or willing to be a little bit of a guinea pig on this? On this board? Anybody else?
Yeah. Can you?
I can. Yeah, you're a little
Are
muffled.
you able to hear me now?
There you go. Now I can hear you. Yeah, perfect. Any chance you want to go video?
Okay. Yeah, we're using.
You know.
No, I'm in my pajamas.
All right, all right. So we'll go ahead and just do audio on this. That's fine. So Norma, so am I going to work with you? Does that work? Norma, do you want to give us just one particular category out of this health section? You want to share with us from the before category, on the before side?
Yeah. Beforehand, I was doing really well with a new eating plan.
Ah.
And during, I am stuffing full of junk. I'm eating lots of junk food during. Yeah, it's awful.
I've heard that called the COVID 20. That there's the freshman 20 in college, and I think there's a COVID 20 in this. That is the experience. So okay,
Yep,
so
definitely.
working has now become. Is it confused or is it just broken or where is it at?
It's pretty bad.
Okay. So what other things? Give me something on the maybe on the during that's maybe that is maybe either working or that give me some on that category. So anything on there that you have that's working now that wasn't working before or that's different?
Yes. Jay and I are walking a whole lot more now during this period of time.
Okay.
So we're walking together a whole lot more.
Yeah. So now what would you attribute that to? Because that'll help us kind of as we start gleaning into the next section. But what are you attributing that to? What's the gain that's been had that's making that possible?
Because we're both working from home, Jay doesn't just go walk at the gym. When he's done, both of us recognize we're both done. So we can go leave and go for a walk together. Okay.
So some of what, as we talk about the gains that we see and experience on any of this, one of the things that we'll be looking at on the second page are, what are some of the gains that we want to sustain? And so do you have any sense, and this will be obviously a question for the two of you to work out, but do you have any sense of what about this gain, which you guys have had now, could possibly be sustained on the other side of this? I'm assuming it's a gain you're grateful for.
Yeah, I certainly hope it will be sustained.
So any
Yes, definitely.
Any practical ways in which you imagine that being able to be something that could be sustained?
I guess actually setting a time rather than just letting work flow into whatever available hours there are, but setting more of a deadline and scheduling our time to walk together.
Yeah, that's probably gonna. Otherwise, life leaks in, right? Okay.
Exactly.
That's a great example. That's a perfect example. Anything on the confused and missing, either before or after, that you'd be willing to share?
That's as far as I got. I didn't get that to the last two columns.
That's great. Those are, I think, really helpful columns, especially as you evaluate, if there's anything moving forward that you're wanting to do. So, okay, perfect. Well, this is what I'd like to do. I'm going to go ahead and I want to release the rest of you guys to any comments, by the way, you'd like to make to that, or if you echo that, feel free to. I'm actually going to move the chat to panelists and attendees, so you guys will be able to see your own chats with each other, to each other. But if you echo some of these pieces, or if that's exactly some of the things you've experienced or something similar in these kinds of moments, feel free to just throw that up there on a chat, so that we can kind of be interacting to that end too. So, all right, so I'm going to send you guys back to the attendee world, not demote you, just change your role. And then what I'd like to do is I'm going to go ahead and give you all about 5 minutes So you're going to each have 5 minutes to go ahead and do kind of a blitz through the other 4 categories. And as best you can, kind of take the biggest, the hottest thing, if you will, and try and fill that in as you walk through the faith category, the work category, the family category, and the community category. And just start asking your question. Okay, what was working and that's maybe not working now, or what was broken that actually got fixed through this time. So we're looking at kind of that before and after dynamic in particular. So I'm going to go ahead and give you 5 minutes. Do the best you can. Just try and ask the questions as you kind of go through from left to right on each one of these categories. Okay, so 5 minutes, top of the mind, top of the head. Just do your best on what you got there, and then we'll come back and do a little bit of coaching with a couple different people before we move to the next category. Okay, so 5 minutes, and I'll see you in a minute. All right, so that 5 minutes. Looks like we have a question here. Okay, so, well, it's actually, I don't think it's a question exactly. Thanks, Donna. Here is what I'd like to do. I'm going to go ahead and pull in a set of you all. Actually, based on what I'm seeing, it might be an option to pull in everybody, and then we can kind of talk through that. So I'm pulling in a set here, and we'll see how that works. Okay, so I'm basically allowing several of you all to, I'm just going to kind of come on in here and okay, so brought several of you guys in. Some of you are unmuted, I think, and others are not. What I'd love to do is kind of kick around. Let me go ahead and bring, oh, there we go. Is to go ahead and kind of query from you guys. Any of you guys want to go video, feel free to. We'd love to see your faces. But is which ones of these particular elements were significant to you? What's some of the big rocks that come out of the family, faith, work, and community for you? So Ivy, would you be willing to share with us kind of one of the particular either before and after elements out of any of those 4 categories that kind of emerged for you as you did the work on this?
Sure, yeah. So, for me, the biggest thing was probably the community category, because that kind of touched on some of the other stuff I was thinking about when I was filling out family and work.
Yeah.
So, I'm really a people person, so a lot of the things I felt like were really working for me before. So having a nice rhythm of seeing lots of people and seeing different groups of people on a regular basis has all kind of gone out the window a little bit.
Yeah.
But during a good thing is that I'm getting scheduled time with people that I don't normally get to see very much. So that's been kind of nice.
Okay. So what?
But I kind of had to work hard to find something during that I actually thought was working. That was hard.
Okay. So the people that you don't normally, what has been the gain on that for you in particular?
So some of it is just people that I always sort of like mean to catch up with, but I never quite do. And suddenly the whole pandemic thing has made it seem more urgent for everybody to stay in touch. So it's been easier to get a hold of people. So that's been kind of cool.
Okay. Yeah. So access. Yeah, that makes sense. So what has been some of the broken, confused, or missing of the during for you?
Oh, so much of it. So I really thought that digital communication was going to be okay. Like I thought that virtual talking was going to be the same as regular talking, and it's not. It's not the same.
Turns out, right?
So even after having a long conversation with somebody over Zoom, I don't feel filled up the way that I normally do in regular life. So I feel like weirdly like I'm kind of running on empty all the time. Probably more than I ever have before. So that's definitely been hard.
Yeah.
That's been really hard.
So that's a tangible loss as you look at the kind of what's been lost during this time that you're looking at regaining. That's a tangible thing for you. Yeah.
Yeah, it has. And I also get I think what I wrote about the thing that feels like it's missing is people being able to tell how I am without me having to self-report.
Yes.
And I just get exhausted. I'm a 2 on the Enneagram. I just get exhausted by self-reporting. I hate it. So having to physically tell someone how I am, or like having to log into a call for them to know, is like, oh, really?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, self-reporting. That's a great way of saying it. All right. Well, thanks, Ivy. Sarah Anderson, what might you have to share with us from any and all the categories in particular, either the before, after, things that were working or things that are working now that weren't working before, or things that got fixed, that were broken, missing, or that kind of got fixed in that piece. So, you willing to share with us?
Yeah, I'll touch on the family aspect, our immediate family.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we always had family time before, but now being able to see that it was always muddled with our to-do list. And our to-do list has been greatly reduced. So as far as like errands and things like that. So our family time now is much more relaxed, and we just sit out in the sun and enjoy each other.
Gotcha.
Which has been really nice.
So now you said the to-do list has been relaxed by the to-dos. You're not saying like honey-do list stuff around the house. You're actually talking about like having to be out in the world and running errands, etc.
Right. Yeah, we're not going anywhere. So yes, much more relaxed.
So is there anything about that gain that you see as being able to be transported forward when a degree of normalcy has returned, this could be a part of your new normal? Is there anything in that you think is a gain or that could be gained?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I hope that we stay, I know that we won't be able to stay as relaxed as we are. I mean, we're going to have to get back into running errands and things like that. But yeah, I hope that we can realize the benefit of just sitting and being with each other. And yeah, that we will fight for that.
Yeah. Do you have any sense of, I mean, you have lived life before this, right? Do you have any sense of some of what that might mean or take in order for that to happen in particular? Are there any things that you're going to need to say no to or engage differently with in order for that to be a priority for you guys as a family? Either a certain set of rhythms or an absence of a certain set of rhythms?
Well, I think in taking part in extracurricular activities, I think that will probably just like, hey, are we really up for this? Or, you know, like based off how our daughter's acting, she's 5, so based off the way she's acting, is she telling us that she's overly tired or that she just needs time with mom and dad? Or would it be good for us to go out and see other faces? So yeah, just assessing our physical, mental, emotional health and is filling up our schedule worth it?
Right. So in what ways are these questions that were you just not asking these questions before? It was kind of like, was it just like the yes was the automatic? Is that some of it?
I don't think we realized we maybe needed to ask the questions as much as we needed to. I come from a very large family, and so with that, there is always something going on. Yeah. And it's good to see extended family. I mean, it's good to celebrate birthdays. It's good to do things like that. Mm-hmm. But I think that we can have a healthier boundary around it. Know that if we miss some here and there, that it is okay. And it's okay.
Yeah. That's really great. Anything that from before that is now missing or that is broken or confused that was not so beforehand that emerged for you?
My job is my daughter. so there, and she was in school several mornings a week prior to this. So she is an extrovert, hardcore. So there is no break.
Gotcha.
There is no break.
You are the playmate, the full-time playmate.
Yes. So what's hard now is knowing that she is very verbal. So she asks for social outlets apart from her mom and dad. And we can't really give them to her right now. So so that is hard.
Yeah, that's real. That's tangible loss to be regained.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, thanks, Sarah.
Sure.
Donna Smith, let me hear from you. What's you said you got a 3-year-old that you're trying to keep in control, but what emerged out for you on this, on the both before and during?
Can you hear me?
Yep. Clear as day.
Okay. Okay. I think across the board for me, it has been, even in most of these categories, I've felt incredible freedom that I did not feel before.
Hmm.
I think the lack of family commitment. I have a 93-year-old mom in town that I, would need to see several times a week. And I have a rule following daughter who has holed up with her family and is not allowing anyone in or out. And that's freed up a lot of time. We're not doing as much business, which keeps me out of the office. And the absence of church commitments as far as FaceTime for those church commitments. I think the freedom that I've experienced during this time has been truly, truly life-giving for me. I mean, to be able to get up in the morning and say, gosh, what do you want to do today? Is an amazing, an amazing new experience for me. And to be honest, I've just loved being in my own home and actually cooking instead of throwing something together for somebody that's hungry, and intentionally spending time on creative pursuits and on reading for not only growth but pleasure. It's been a really sweet time for me.
It sounds like a recalibration. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what you're that's what you're hearing. In that I am one of those people who's afraid that I might not re-enter appropriately or well, and I am determined to try to figure this out so that I might set healthier boundaries and even just more carefully curate my schedule going back in.
Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. Any particular things that you're looking at right now that are missing or confused even in the midst of this during time for you?
This is really going to sound strange, but no. No.
Everything is right and everything makes sense.
Yeah, this has been such a positive for me that it has been difficult. If there's anything that's missing for me, it is the person-to-person FaceTime. But everything else has been felt so right and so healthy for me that even that has been fine.
Mm-hmm. So any sense then, Donna, as someone who's highly active, is engaged and involved in a lot of things, any sense about what it looks like to move forward these gains with intentionality and purpose into whatever renormalizing may look like in the coming weeks and months? How can some of these gains be taken forward for you? You have any sense on even a couple of those, whether it's reading for pleasure or cooking in your own home or things like that? Any sense on that? How do you fight?
I really don't want to spend time in the kitchen. It's just been a different experience. It's not something that I would probably take forward because it's not my priority. Yeah. But I think when I got down, because I did work through this schedule, have been working through this schedule really prayerfully before the Lord, trying to shed some light on why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. And I did end up, I think I'm jumping ahead, but I did end up with the objective of culling my life appropriately, culling things from my life that I don't believe are top priorities. And that is going to be my focus going forward, is trying to figure out what that looks like.
Yep.
And I apologize if you can hear Paw Patrol in the background.
Oh, no, it's fantastic. All right. Well, that's a great segue, Donna, because really the gleaning work that we want to do in trying to be intentional and purposeful, it really moves us to kind of the second page piece and some of those takeaway concepts. And so what I want to do is give you guys, again, just a little bit of a work time here, give you about 5 minutes to work through these top 3 questions, which are what are the losses during this time that I want to reclaim, and trying to capture out of this rubric here, this matrix here, some of those pieces that would say, okay, what are those? And then what are the gains, the guarantees that you want to be able to to be able to sustain in some way, shape, or form, and then what potentially wasn't there before, isn't there now, but as you're realizing, okay, this gap here that existed before, I've now had enough time to think about it, haven't been able to remedy it in this present time, but I would like to see it begin in the future. So it's kind of 3 particular categories to be able to think through about moving things into the future. So I'm gonna give you just 5 minutes to kind of work through those 3 pieces and trying to glean out and tease those things out, ask those questions to yourself, and then we'll come back and kind of query from a few of you on that end. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to probably send a couple of you guys back into the attendees side of thing, and then I'll query a few of you on the other side. So 5 minutes, I'll pop this screen back up, and we'll come back in a minute. So 5 minutes. All right, next 5 minutes passed. Would love to hear from a couple of you guys about where you landed on some of those pieces. So let me bring in, there we go. Let me ask specifically, let's go with Steve Miller. Why don't you tell us a little bit, what, if you want to, again, anyone who wants to go video, feel free to do so. I believe you can, or maybe you cannot, I'm not sure. But would love to hear any, hold on. We can't go video. Okay, that makes sense. I'm wondering if there is a way to, well, doesn't look like that's the way to do it.
I am muted.
You unmute. Okay. Well, Dad, why don't you tell us a little bit about what, grab one of those categories. What was lost during the quarantine that you want to reclaim, or either of those 3 questions? Which one would you like to share with us?
What I lost during the quarantine. I think for me, just being able to be with people I'm very much a people person, so not being able to see people on a regular basis. So that's been probably the biggest part that has been a struggle for me. And I mean, our job that we do is basically online all day, when we're doing that. So, but it's just being face to face with people. I just really miss that.
Okay. What about any particular gains that you want to sustain?
Well, I think one of the things, I had to become more disciplined about my time, and I read some, but I wasn't as disciplined in my reading, and I think that's something I began doing because I just felt there's a lot of time going by that I'm not doing anything. So I started reading. I'm reading a number of different books, and just utilizing my time better. Time management probably is a word that would suit me at this point. So just have a lot of things to pick up and learn, and I think it'd be helpful for me to maintain that as I move into the whatever this new phase is going to be.
Yeah. One of the things that we're trying to get to is a place, a sense of out of looking at these gains or losses that you're trying to, gains that you'd like to sustain, or losses that you'd like to reclaim. Are there any particular goals that you want to, objectives that you want to put out there? Is there anything that out of those 2 categories in particular that?
I think I have a whole list of books on my Kindle that I've wanted to read, and I've gone through them and decided, what would I like to read in the next 60 days? Which of those books would I like to begin, finish, and move on and say I read them?
Okay. It's helpful to be able to have specificity, right? Anytime you get to a goal place, you really want to get down to something that's specific and that's going to be measurable. You can get a sense of, okay, here's the 3 books I want to read in the next 60 days. And therefore, how much do I need to read each day, or how do I break that down? It's one of the ways in which we actually move forward on the goals that we sense we want to bring change about, for sure. So cool. Pam Flo, tell me a little bit if you've been able to pull some of this out. I know you joined us a little bit after we got going, so I want to make sure that you had a chance to kind of think through that. But anything you'd like to share with us out of those questions?
Well, I'm not prepared for class.
You're not? Well, it's a live class, Pam. So let me just ask you. Can I
My
ask-
4 hours that was committed to this afternoon ended up with a touching feeling 4-hour rendezvous with Ryan. First time we've been with her.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
That's it. No, that's
So I haven't done
Every
any
time-
of this, so I have nothing to share.
granddaughters wins. Well, how about this? Can I just ask you, and then you may just like kind of live process it? What is there a particular gain,
I
Pam,
thought,
during this time that you want to
Yeah.
sustain, that you feel like would be worth sustaining in the future? That you feel like this is something I don't want to lose.
yeah, there is. I think one of the big gains that we've had is just our time together as a couple. It has been really sweet at a time where Daryl's retiring and we were beginning to wonder what that was going to look like.
Yeah.
But we've just had some really great time together, and it has made me really want to fight for that in the future.
Okay. Any sense of what, in light of you know what normal life looks like? I know you guys were entering a new season, but any sense of what that will require? What kind of objective you would need to have in order for that to be maintained? I imagine it takes on multiple forms. Y'all's time together, from whether going on a walk or right. But any sense of what particular objectives you'd want to put in place for that? That you'd say, okay, I want to shoot an aim list.
It's a great question. I think one of the things is to, I say yes too quickly to a lot of things, and making sure that the things that I'm saying yes to are directed and in the area that I feel like God is directing me, and not just good church things to do or good community things to do or good grandma things to do.
Yeah.
But
That church thing doesn't count, Pam. You still have to do it.
yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
It counts, Matt.
Yeah. No, yeah.
But just being more cautious with that, I think is something that I really have come away with, that is an important thing for me and for us.
That's really great. Okay. All right, let me ask kind of a, all right, Ann Miller, what about you? Any particular goal? If you think, if you're looking through, I'm going to kind of move to the next and final piece here. Any sense from the things that you have either lost that you want to regain, or that you've gained that you want to maintain or sustain, or anything you want to begin that you see as something like one of the top 3, there's a specific goal you want to reach in on that?
Yeah, I think one of the things we might.
I muted you. It looks like you're having some pretty bad feedback there. So is your phone on or something?
No, it's Dad's gonna.
Okay, sounds good. All right, go ahead. You're good now.
Okay, we both had our computers on, so that's one of the problems.
All right. I muted him, so hopefully you're good now. Go ahead.
Okay. So one of the things that's been really good is that we have done more exercise together.
Sorry about that. I'm gonna have to mute you again. You're going super loud on that. Let me see if there's a way. Maybe if they could shut down.
Just shut down, Dad's. Let's
There you go. All
try it
right.
again. Okay. All right. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. One of the things was that we have been exercising together. We've been having more meaningful conversations instead of what call do you have today? What time do you meet with someone? What Skype call are you going to do? And what are you having for lunch? So we've been having more meaningful conversations between us, which has really been good, even though we do live together. And the other thing is that I put down is when I've been, one of the things I've been doing when I've been mentoring people overseas and other places is really having to actually come into their lives, because we're all in the same boat, in the sense that they're really stressed and they're really alone and they're needy, and trying to identify with that, because I am not. I have my house, my yard, I can go out and so on, and trying to take better care of the people that I mentor and really getting into their lives. So that's one of the things I want to do.
One of the objectives.
Yeah. It's an objective, yeah. The exercise, continue the exercise as well. And the other thing is, is before this all happened, I was way overscheduled, and my schedule was controlling me. And it's been good to have the fact that it's all right to have free time and downtime. And I've made some choices, and I will continue to make the same choices of not getting overscheduled again.
Yeah. I think you're hitting on something that I think is kind of, and it looks like we're coming up on time, so I want to make sure I move to the final piece here. But I think one of the things you're hitting on is that there's, and I think I've heard this in a couple different categories, right? You got folks that were saying yes too much, or that their schedule and their calendar was like chock full of, and this is given an opportunity to be able to take a step back and say, hold on. Now that I can't, I'm realizing that I was constricted. There was way more on there that I actually wanted to say yes to. I just kind of everything kind of grew up underneath me, and next thing you know, I feel like almost suffocated. And this has given me some air to breathe, and I want to think differently about how I re-enter life. So it's being better about saying yes to the yes, but also probably more no. In order to say yes, being able to say no. And then there's, for other folks, there's some that are realizing, boy, there's some things I really want to be able to say yes to that I was not saying yes to, that I have some gaps in my life, whether it's I don't have the kind of community connections that I wish I had. And so I actually want to re-enter with a stronger yes, with greater intentionality around the pieces that I was saying yes to, but that were kind of, anemic, that there were some of those, the relationships I was kind of just taking for granted. And so it's really those two pieces that are playing themselves out. And depending on where you land and depending on what's going on in your life, it seems like those are two fundamental elements that in a sense need to be can be shifted at this point towards tangible and specific goals. And that's kind of where this exercise leads you all the way to the end here, is to kind of think through what are if you have three particular objectives that you glean out of this, what's one of them? What's one of them that over the course of the next 90 days you're going to say, hey, this really mattered, and I actually want to put a specific emphasis to say, I'm going to fight for this one thing. Can't fight for 10 things. No one can fight for 10 things at once. But what's the one thing I want to fight for? What's the one objective, one goal that, you know what? Like I heard several of you guys talk about, hey, my spouse and I got to start walking together in a way we've never done before. It's like, okay, so we're going to fight for that. We're going to, once a week, we're going to get up. It's one of the things Becky and I have. 1 to 2 days a week to be able to choose to walk together. And that builds relationship elements. It's a good exercise. It gets us outside, and it forces us into a level of connection that we didn't have otherwise. So that's a rhythm. That would be an objective to say, I'm going to fight for that. It means it's going to go into the calendar first, not at the end. So that's some of what we're trying to glean here from this. And it could be certain practices, but all change, all sustaining a new rhythm, or all regaining something that was lost is going to come with an intentionality around a rhythm that needs to be lived out over the course of 90 days for a particular objective. It's the thing that needs to go on your mirror, the things that needs to be thrown up on your refrigerator. It's the thing you need to tell your friends about, to say, hey, listen, here's the thing I'm fighting for coming out of this thing, is I want to see this continue. I want to see this change. I want to see this be renewed. I want way more of that. So that's some of what this exercise is built around, is to take us to a closing time of saying, what's the one thing that I want to invest over the course of the next 90 days on? So my hope is that you've had some chance to kind of take some initial steps on this over the course of this time, to work on it 3 minutes, 5 minutes at a time. The true exercise here really would probably require a full 30 minutes to do the initial matrix of life assessment, and then probably another 10 to 15 minutes to really work down all the elements, and doing that with God. I mean, it's one of the great opportunities you have to sit there prayerfully and asking God, what would you have me invest in over the course of the next 90 days that you've brought to my attention, either by its absence or by its renewed or refreshed presence, that I want to invest in light of what you're putting in front of me. So that's some of what this entire process is leading us towards. It's not to miss out on a particular rock, and maybe others that then could be gleaned from later on. So that's the premise behind all of this. My hope for each of you, my encouragement to each of you would be to don't let it end here. This is a perfect conversation to have on a date night. It's a perfect conversation to have with your community group. It's a perfect conversation to have with your friends, your kids, whatever, and to say, hey, what's the one thing that you would want to see continue on? What's the one objective you'd want to have to be able to see be different in 90 days that you realize, hey, I grabbed a hold of something during this Corona time. It revealed some pieces, and now I still am able to hold on to it. And the gift of what it is sustained in my life. I'm carrying it forward. That's some of what we believe it looks like to be good disciples, to be followers of Christ in an intentional way. So my hope is that as we introduce this tonight, it's something that will be able to take some roots and be expanded upon for you guys as you do this. So thanks so much for your time. Thanks for giving yourself to the process. Thanks for being guinea pigs on coaching through this. And I hope that you guys all have a really great remaining of the night. And any thoughts you may have on this, we'd love to have you post it on the Facebook Connect follow-up page, and that might be helpful. So have a great night. Thanks so much for all being here, and I will see you guys soon on Sunday.